outside? Should I run and hide? How do I take my company worldwide? Do you love the law? Did you watch Hee-Haw? What's the weirdest thing that you ever saw? What's it like in court? Favorite sport? Can you help with my book report? Is my hair too long? Am I right or wrong? And do you mind if I sing along to anything? Ask Alan anything in the world.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Ask Alan, the podcast. I'm Alan Crone, the CEO of the Crone Law Firm, and I have got a first for this show and a first for America. I have America's first professional speed painter, Jessica Haas, and she is a Memphian, which is even better.
Yes.
Now, Jessica, I gotta ask you, why speed painting particularly?
Well, speed painting in and of itself, it's a learning curve for some people. Sometimes people will be like, do you paint walls really fast? But ultimately, no, I can paint. I can paint walls very fast. Behind me, you can kind of see a little bit of a mural, but yeah, so speed painting is basically, technically, if you're a true speed painter, you paint in as little as a time slot that like you can actually complete a 4x5 foot painting or something around that range within about 90 seconds or less. And I hold the record. I can do it in 42 seconds upside down. So
okay. Now, are you originally from Memphis?
I was born and raised in Texas, but I came to Memphis for art school and I fell in love with the city and just the culture here and just all of the firsts in the history here. I've always been so amazed by Memphis. So
now, was it the Academy of Art where you went?
Memphis College of Art is where I got my bachelor's. Yeah. And so I learned a lot about the city there downtown. I bought a loft like halfway through and started my own multidisciplinary art business because I actually wasn't, I knew that I was going to be doing speed painting as my talent. And when I say talent, I come from modest beginnings. And so I competed in the Miss America organization, so Miss Tennessee. I actually I've competed in 3 states. I'm a title holder in 3 states, Arkansas, Texas, and Tennessee. But in Tennessee, the rumor was that nothing other than music could really win. And so that was a huge challenge for me, only because that's what I was told, but I changed that. And so one talent and, but anyway, to your question, what you're saying, I bought my loft halfway through college and started my business. And when I won talent and Miss Tennessee, because that was scholarship money helping me get through college and helping fund my business and getting me off my feet and that kind of thing, I got called by not only a talent agency, but several television networks. And so after I got signed, I immediately had kind of my pick of like which networks I was going to perform on or compete for. And the Gong Show, which is the show that I won, it had the most cutthroat vibe to it. And so that's a lot of that kind of story. I ended up winning it. But the preface of winning that show, a lot of people don't know a lot about the Gong Show. So, on America's Got Talent, for example, which I was offered an opportunity there as well. But I chose the Gong Show because it was new. And then 2, also, the Gong Show, you had to beat the gong. So you had to be entertaining enough, like within like the first few minutes, to not get gonged to qualify to be judged. And so my judges were Jack Black, Jennifer Aniston, and Will Arnett. Well, in the trial runs of the whole show, like I didn't have anything to really compare it to. So I was just like, we were all sequestered, every contestant, and there must have been like 80 acts. And so we were all standing in line, and then I noticed the lines just getting shorter and shorter because I think initially I was like number 24 and there was like 80. And then before I knew it, like the people in front of me and behind me who had become good friends with, that started to disappear. And so I ended up being like number 8. on the day that we actually filmed the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying, because where did they go? And we didn't know anything. And so, and I just remember being number 8 and being so much closer to the stage than all of the screen rehearsals we had done. Because Jennifer Aniston, they brought her out, and I was like, oh gosh, that's Jennifer Aniston. But we were the first episode they filmed. And so I don't know if they got better at it with the celebrity judges, but like Jack Black was really gong happy. And so he was just like gonging like all of the acts, like 1 through I think maybe 4. And like they didn't even get to start their act. And so I was like, what am I going to do? I have to paint. Like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And then I'm going to be on national television. Oh my God. And so I just had to go with it. And so what I started to do as I was like progressing forward, as each act was being dismissed, I was like, okay, just figure out a plan. And so I was like listening for the sounds of the audience, and the audience was like, gong, gong, when I started hearing them like say, gong, gong. And I was like, all right, Jess, like, you're going to go out there. Cause I had a whole like upside down, like full out painting, hoping they just be interested in me painting like very fast. But like there was like some really incredible acts that got gonged immediately and didn't even make the episode. And so I got out there, and as soon as I started painting, there's a funny, hilarious picture of me. Like I look super intense, like right before I start. And so anyway, they did this, they started the music, and I moved so fast. And so, but as soon as I heard like the words, I think it felt like it was like 5 seconds in, but technically I think we were about 20 seconds in, and I started to hear the gonger because it was upside down. And so I saved it, and my plan was to flip it no matter what it looked like before it could get to the gong. And so I flipped it, and it happened to look somewhat like Will Arnett, and they all were floored. And so I was like, oh. So anyway, that's a very long story, but I ended up winning. And that basically just launched my career. And in all of that, I did that in 42 seconds. I was the first female on television. There's a lot of firsts there, and that's kind of where we got started.
So did you know what you were going to paint before you went on stage, or was it a game time decision?
Well, I was going to try to pull off a double content. So I was going to try to paint a battleship, or what looked like a battleship, and then turn it into Will Arnett's face. But because of how quickly the gongs were happening in front of me, I was like, oh God. I was like, we're gonna have to like figure something out. And so I was like, I don't know if you're gonna have time to do double content. We might need a shift. And so I did like the first stroke or the second, and I realized immediately, you don't have time for this. Go straight for his face, upside down. And so that's what I did, and I transitioned. But still 20 seconds in, it was still like not entertaining enough. And so I started to hear a murmur of like, gonger, like, and because the crowd loved, like, because it was before a live audience, like a full live audience. And it was like, I could hear the murmurs of gong her. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've only had 20 seconds. Like, and so I was like, I must have moved my arms. It was like Speedy Gonzalez. So, but no, so I had to shift and just kind of go with it. And I knew that was going to happen. I think just the luck of being number 8 in that lineup. I was number like 24, but yeah, I formed that plan and told myself, no matter what, flip it. If you start to, because I had to rely on audio really, because like I was like facing backwards. I couldn't see really what was going on. And so I flipped it before I got gonged, and yeah.
Well, very good. Very good. So I'm going to ask you a 2-part question.
Okay.
What inspires you to paint, and what about speed painting helps your artistic expression?
One of the most interesting, so I just finished a residency where I performed 53 shows 3 times a day, 5 days a week. Was insane. But one of the things that I got asked a lot was, why do you paint upside down? And I was like, well, first of all, I mean, it's an entertainment factor, but also, second of all, it helps me to not think, because in speed painting, you cannot think, you can only react. And like, it's almost, and when you try to train to become a speed painter, like, it's like a breaking of the brain. Like, you can't like think about it. Like, you have to just only respond. And that means you have to, and then it just takes like so much practice and experience with like the paints, like, and the way that the paints glide, your brushes, like, you just have to be so familiar with those items that, like, it's just, it comes out of you. If you're not, you just won't make your time limit. And so, as far as, you know, just speed painting in general, upside down, that kind of thing, but also just like what inspires paintings. That's what you asked, right? Like, what is my biggest inspiration? So, inspiration, I got my scholarship to art school with painting, actually, but I actually chose to be a sculpture major, because the sculpture majors got access to all the medias, and I would also kind of basically describe myself in that way, because I was very entrepreneurial, because I came from modest beginnings, and that's why I chose to be a sculpture major. I got like the dean scholarship to go to art school, but my style is very, for art, is very edgy. But I got my scholarship because I had the ability to balance like edgy conceptual with something that was very pretty and very like alluring. And so a lot of my expertise was in painting, charcoal, watercolor. And so I wanted to learn more about like all of the different mediums so that I could be equipped for whatever I needed to do, because it was actually in the process of, even though I didn't go to business school, I did take a lot of art business classes, and I was in the process of building my own multidisciplinary art business. And so a lot of things that are edgy, that makes people, demands their attention. It kind of pokes the tiger a little bit. I love stuff like that. I love very conceptual design. I love things that test the waters a little bit controversial, maybe, you know. I also have a very just edgy style, but it's balanced with really pretty metallics and color palettes, but it still like begs a question. And so I feel like I'm inspired by like that, and which would lead you to, I was also a philosophy minor. I love philosophy. And so I think that like there's a little bit of and I was also into like on the debate team. And so I love like the conversation that can happen just from the art that you create, and maybe thoughts that maybe could be provoked from it.
Okay. Now, when you talk about doing a residency, you had several shows, several a day. How are those paintings selected? Is it like an improv where someone says, you know, paint a tree with a swing, or how do you go about doing it?
So I designed this show in a year, almost a year. It came with dancing, costume changes, like envision like a Broadway show. That's what my show was. And I'm another first, and it's kind of getting to a point where I almost feel like, is it old? I have so many firsts, but like I performed the first full-length speed paint show that like ever, with dancing, like every single segment had a different costume change. So basically I enter with Slash, and I like come out and the dancers are doing like a jungle, because the name was Bloom, and so that was the theme. And so I did like a jungle theme, because like that's also kind of like foliage and stuff like that. And so it comes out with a bang, because we were in an amusement park. It was for Silver Dollar City. And so I had a residency there. I lived on the campus of Silver Dollar City for the entire month of April. And that was insane. It was insane to teach an entire cast and crew, dancers, choreographers, lighting. Like, it was such a huge project. We planned it for an entire year. Colors, like LED mapping, AI, all these different things. That was it was insane. Costumes, like from the top to the bottom. And one of my biggest things was, I wanted to make sure that I was a show for everybody, like a show for mom, dad, and little brother, little sister, like family oriented, told a story, inspired, and also just helped other artists or other creatives feel like there was so much more that they could do. And that's exactly what happened. And so I was super proud that like I had this one kid who there were several people that, to my surprise, that came to the show almost. There was one guy who came to the show every show. He came to 54 shows. That was insane to me. And then there was one little kid who had a mohawk, and he like came to the show instead of going to the roller coasters, which he came to the park for. And he came to my show. And I just felt like super complimented by that because it was called Bloom, but it wasn't what you expected. And that was the big feedback that I always got. And just like, and so my residency included a ton of paint in my hair, which I was not used to because I was painting on things that were, when I created this show, I wanted it to be epic. I like wasn't gonna, I'm not, at the first, I'm not a type of person that was raised to hold back. You take it for everything that you've got. And that's just kind of how my mom raised me. And so I made everything huge. So I did I started out with like slash and dancers, and it was like jungle, like I came out and I was like, I literally had to scream out to the crowd, and I was like, are you ready? I was like, people were like, it was insane, but that was how it choreographed, and it was really cool. And then we went straight into like a 10-foot coloring book that was like on one side of a rotating like whole stage thing. And then I did a costume change and came back out, and it was like I was a totally different scene, and I told my life story. And then I went I had to run 6 feet because the stage was so huge as it was doing a video transition. And I did my art school story and the turntable turn, and I was painting Mona Lisa in a whole rebel outfit. And then so many different easels. They were so big. Choreography, the show was insane. And so there's a lot of bids for it right now for residencies, which I'm super excited about, because I knew that creating a paint show like that, I didn't know, I've never written a show before, but I just wanted to accomplish something epic. I didn't know how it would be received, but I also didn't know every show had a standing ovation, and it was insane because I was I just wanted to at least just get through, because literally at the beginning of the whole show, I was laying on my back because you need to run a 5K marathon if you're going to do something like that. Because to keep up with the dancing and never underestimate a costume change. That is a workout. Oh my gosh. You have to rip stuff off as you're running through the stage. It's insane. But just having that accomplishment and it being up for bid, I didn't know that it was, I just wanted to survive it. But I didn't know it was going to be good. And I also didn't know it was going to be great. And it's probably one of my best accomplishments this far in my career. I feel like it's just cool.
Well, I hear that performance art is not your only talent, not your only accomplishment. You've written a book.
Yes.
Tell us about the book.
So, like I said, I was a philosophy minor. I also have a master's in theology. My biggest thing, I have a huge heart for younger women and empowering younger women and helping them. And right now, currently, I'm training. So I'm America's first female speed painter, but I'm currently training America's second female speed painter. Her name's Annika, and she's a redhead, and she's super fiery. And right now, we're training her, and so she's learning a lot. But she met me via through the whole Miss America organization, and she won Miss Kansas with speed painting. And so it's really cool. And so I'm really excited to be mentoring her. But empowering women is really the basis of where he is, the book that I got to be a part of. But philosophy, it was a huge thing for me, especially in apologetics, because I really feel that kind of crosses hairs with the art and making you question, or just kind of just disrupt things that might just be normal or go with the flow. Because I love edgy things. And so the book that I got to be a part of. It was the attributes of God. I'm a Christian, and I'm an unapologetic Christian. And so I got to do an apologetic piece that had a lot of philosophy, and it was directed towards teen girls because I really believe in biblical literacy. No matter what you're doing, I think that you should be very well informed and well trained in the arguments and apologetics of any kind of thing that is, you know, directing your life, especially your belief system. And so that's one of the things that whenever I have the opportunity, and I speak to a lot of women's conferences and girls conferences, and that is one of my favorite things to do, is give them meat and challenge them. Because I think that especially like at the ages around 6th to 8th grade, I love that age demographic, especially getting to teach them, because I believe they really make the most like the biggest decisions around that age, and it starts to set like the trajectory like for high school and what they're going to do, and then high school kind of forms like the rest of everything. And so helping get in there right there, I feel like, and helping them, equip them with really just challenging truths and things to make them think. I love that. And so that's really what the basis of that book was for.
Okay. And you're living in professional art. What are the pros and cons of that? That it sounds, you've used the word edgy a couple of times. It sounds pretty edgy, because the old adage is starving artists.
It is an old adage.
Yeah. What do you think the pros and cons are of going all in on art?
I love that you said it's an old adage, because one of the biggest things, I come from modest beginnings. My mom is an insanely smart woman. Like, she graduated nursing school with a 4.0, and that's like unheard of. But she also did it being a single mother. And so we came from very modest, just the projects, basically. We lived in government housing, and she made her way up. And so a lot of the things that I saw growing up, she always told me that I could be whatever I wanted to be. And I think that the only reason I was even just able to believe her was because she did it too, coming from the background that we came from. And the funniest thing that I ever ran into, I think, even in art school, was how many kids I was going to school with, my peers and my colleagues, that were almost like, what do? I have to prove myself to my family that this was a good decision or something like that. And it was a whole world that I had never been exposed to. My mom never exposed me to that, even though I was calling basically the pavement my pillow. And I should have, probably, it would have made more sense, but I didn't. And one of the things that I love about art and getting to, even in high school, like, mom moved us to, she graduated nursing school. We moved to a more affluential area in Texarkana. Texas is Texas area. About 4 hours here from Memphis. And she did it because she wanted us to be, really well educated, had a really great art program, just all that. But another thing too with that was that when I was graduating, I remember a lot of people running into just a lot of doctors, different lawyers, different people that were CEOs or different things like that were headed towards different things like that. But I was in FBLA. I was like in Future Business Leaders of America. And one of the responses I always got about where are you going to do or where are you going to go to school, I said, art school. Like, I'm going to art school. And like, I didn't know anything about any different response because that was my home and the culture of my home. And people were always like, interesting. Because I know it now I always just thought that was weird as a younger person, but as an adult and as an accomplished female entrepreneur, CEO of my own company and everything, I think it's interesting that, that was kind of like the old thing. And right now, AI, everything with artistry, like AI can't touch art. It can touch some other things though. And that's kind of the biggest thing, I learned. I just performed for Google in France Google and YouTube in France, in Cannes, France. And the biggest thing and one of the bigger topics, because in Cannes, France, if you're familiar with the Cannes Lions Creative Festival that they have, people from all over the world, for the top CEOs of all of the biggest brands, they all go to Cannes Lions. And it was such an honor to get to be invited to be a part of Google and YouTube's brand activation. But one of the biggest things that was a topic of conversation was the placement of AI and where it will happen and how it will affect our future. And one of the biggest things that was resounding was that it'll never touch art. It could touch law, it could touch doctors, it could touch philosophy, it could touch all these different things, but it couldn't touch art. And that's something that I thought was interesting. And it was also one of the biggest reasons why Google brought me out too, because I was an actual live artist, and it was to help. I was there for their VIPs, but it was to help also illustrate that the computer can't make, I mean, like, it can digitize art, but it can't give you what I can. And that was interesting because that was like, I didn't say that, they did. And I was like, I was just learning and taking it in. And it was just different about what different people at like the top of the top, you know, had to say about what they expected the future to hold. And that was kind of both terrifying and both, I don't know, I guess inspiring. And at the end of the day, I'm grateful. I don't think that I'm better than anybody or anything like that. You know, when I'm saying like AI has, you know, anything with like law or philosophy or doctors or anything like that, but they had a lot of conversations about that, and that was really interesting. But I was really encouraged that, you know, my mom raised me to be what I wanted to be, and to believe in it, and I'm glad that I did. So
Well, good. Here's the last question for you. What's
Sure.
next for Jessica? What's your next challenge?
Well, actually, it's going to be challenging for me too. I can't disclose a ton of it because it's in a lot of heavy upcoming contracts, but I can say it has a lot to do with a television show.
All right.
And closer to reality TV. And let me think what else I can disclose. I think it's going to challenge me too. Because it's going to be constant creativity on a whim, like every single second, and also not always guaranteed that the recipients that I might be interacting with will like it. I don't know if I can disclose more than that, and I hope I didn't disclose too much there. But
Well,
yeah,
I think that's cryptic enough that you're okay. So
what?
I think it's cryptic enough that you'll be okay. I don't think
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm so excited. And 2024 is going to hold a lot of things, I think, for the Jessica K. Haas brand, and then just also like everything. And I'm so excited to also just, you know, get to talk about representing Memphis and just having this opportunity to talk to you.
Well, as you get big and famous and, you know, national, stay in Memphis, stay grounded in Memphis. Like Elvis or Justin Timberlake, all these people that have gone and done great things, but they keep coming back to Memphis. Jessica, thank you so much for joining the show. You've been a great guest, and I'm going to look forward to. I'm going to watch my TV listings, so that when you I tell you what, when you can make an announcement, come back and we'll make the announcement.
You know what? You can be looking for me. I'll also be performing for the Grizzlies in March. So
okay.
yeah, I perform a lot for the Grizzlies and the Redbirds, just perform for the Cardinals as well. But if you're interested, let me know and I'll get you some tickets. And
sounds good.
Yeah,
all right, Jessica, thank you so much. Thanks for everybody for watching. If you've enjoyed this, where can they get the book, Jessica?
You can go to my website, www.jessicakhaas.com. Haas, Haas, that's how it's spelled. Or you can just Google my name.
All right. And it'd be a great gift for some young person, young girl that wants to have her confidence boosted and
challenged.
And challenged. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then be looking for Jessica's branded stuff out there. It's going to be all over the place. Again, thank you. Jessica, and thank everybody for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please go to wherever you found this and give us a review, give us a 5-star review. If you can, forward this on social media or email it to somebody that you think might enjoy it. Jessica is going to go speed paint, and I'm going to go get some justice. So thank you all very much.